So welcome everyone to the latest episode of the Talking Balls podcast. It's the snooker podcast, comes out to you every Wednesday. I'm your host, Michael Wright. I'm on Twitter as Writer74. It's good to be here, and just say hi to my co-host over there in the corner, Lee, if you want to say hi.
Yeah, hi everyone, Lee here. Looking forward to another interesting chat tonight, so welcome.
And we're going to welcome, somebody who's been a coach to, all manner of players you'll know, world champions, 37 years in the business. Not a lot that this man doesn't know about coaching and teaching, but we're going to find out a bit more tonight. So just a big hello, really, to Alan Bell. So hi, Alan.
Hi, Mike. Hi, Lee.
Hi, Alan.
It's great to have you on.
Yeah, lovely to have a nice little chat with you and give you an insight of my 37 years of coaching, teaching. Looking forward.
Great. You've been working with some of the top names in the sport, the likes of Willie Thorne, rest him, the likes of Stuart, Bingham, Joe Johnson, some of the guys on the circuit who, maybe haven't been kind of winning at that level, but still probably gaining a lot from your input, people like Alfie Burden. It'd be really good to know more really about, your kind of take on coaching, anything you want to share really, and we'll see where we go. But you've got an awful lot of experience, and you've obviously, we haven't even mentioned Jimmy White, believe it or not. I just managed to say all their names without saying Jimmy White.
Sure. Yeah. I started out as a snooker player when I was a teenager, whatever, and obviously I found that I had natural ability to be able to, I was given the gift of hand-eye-nation, which every snooker player that is any good has been gifted with hand-eye coordination, because if you're not, you can't play snooker, that's for sure. So, and I used to play in South London where Jimmy was born, and used to play in the same clubs. I'm going to try and cut the long stories short because otherwise we'd never have any time. But I started, we played doubles together, so on and so forth. And, I used to travel to the competitions with him. And I went to the World Championships one particular year, and he got beat in the final again. And, I just consoled him and said, still believe you're the best player, in the world type of thing. And I'm a bit of a self-taught coach. I learn more about my coaching from golf coaches, basically, because there's lots of analogies from, playing golf. The golfers stand behind the shot, they do the visualization, select the club, they select get set to the shot nicely, find the right rhythm and tempo, and try and keep pretty stable afterwards. So lots of analogies. So I like to listen to the golf coaches to feed that into my coaching. So I started to, talk to Jimmy about taking a little bit more care, but him maintaining his flair, basically. I never took his flair away, but obviously he was making a lot of unforced errors here, there and everywhere. And okay, he took that on board, and that lasted for quite a long time. Won a lot of competitions, and then we had a little break for 3 or 4 years, and then I got back with him for one particular season, 2004 season, where in that period that we had the break, I kind of started to understand the importance of routine, the importance of the process, the importance of having a strong act, as I call it. I like that word, the act. And so I introduced Jimmy to a little bit more of a stronger routine, which give him a little bit more care and attention behind the shot. And he started to apply that. And that particular season, he never lost the first round match. He got to 2 semi-finals. He got to 2 finals, got beaten by Stephen Maguire in Malta. And then he got into the final of the Scottish Masters in 2004 against the late great Paul Hunter, believe it or not, and he beat Paul Hunter in the final at 43 years old. Become one of the oldest ranking tournament winners, and it basically was that strengthening his pre-shot routine. Basically, you know, there was one occasion he played Peter Ebdon, and he really got his routine. And I said to him afterwards, "Your routine was magnificent, Jim." And he said, "I don't think I could play without one." And you know, that was coming from a kind of a genius. You know, somebody that you know, was very aggressive. His routine shots were, you know, his recovery shots were routine. So yeah, we had some good fun together. We had some good times and not so good times. And you know, after that season, we went our separate ways again, which, you know, I'm not going to go into anything, but you know, I had some fun traveling the world with Jimmy, that's for sure. And you know, there was a lot of success and so on and so forth. So yeah, you know.
Sorry, Alan. I was just going to say. So when you watch Jimmy playing now, does he still maintain a lot of the routines and stuff that you were working on Jimmy with?
No, he doesn't. No. You know, he recently won a match in the European Masters to qualify for that. He made 137 in the deciding frame, which is nice to see and nice, you know, nice to hear type of thing. You know, obviously he's 60 years now, and like, you know, he still loves it, and you know, every credit for Jim to still, you know, have the love for the game, to travel around, going to the tournaments, going to the qualifiers, so on and so forth. Obviously, you know, Barry Earn gives him a wild card every season, and you know, so you know, there's not loads of pressure with him staying on the circuit, because he's going to stay on the circuit for as long as he wants to stay on the circuit. And you know, he still likes doing his exhibitions, and you know, he can still perform. Obviously, the consistency ain't quite as good as it used to be, but that's natural, isn't it? You know, as you get a bit older, you know, the consistency in anything kind of.
And
like,
of course the standard of the main tour so high now as well.
Sure. You got you got your lads that eat, drink, and sleep it, and you know, the Chinese lads are just unbelievable purists. You know, they're very rhythmical, but with loads of hard work behind them. And you know, it's a magnificent combination, isn't it? You know, natural talent and work hard. Wow. You know, I mean, you can't beat that, can you? You know, you can't beat that. You know, just natural. You know, and they keep their natural talent. They haven't been coached. Stand behind the shot for 10 seconds. You know, looking at a sort of like a 3/4 ball long pot, shuffling their feet around to get their nose slightly to the right side of the line, and you know, taking and then getting down and waggling their cue 7 times and trying to pot a sort of like a little 6-inch screw back off 3/4. Wow, you know what I mean? And like, just we was coaching a young lad in Thailand there, and he had coaching from people that, you know, made him sort of like stand behind a shot a little bit longer to try to find the right line, and then, you know, another coach told him to sort of like keep waggling his cue until he was ready to hit it. Wow. And I said, you know, you got to stop doing that. You know, the way I got him to stop doing it is the way I do it. But you know, he said it was like some shackles had come off of his, you know, legs or whatever. You know, just freed him up. You know, you can't. The game of snooker's not as difficult as some people think. It's very difficult, don't get me wrong, but if you make it more difficult than it is, you got no chance. You got no chance.
You said, Alan, you mentioned earlier about, you know, the early kind of times with Jimmy, and we did get somebody on Twitter when we said you were coming on. I don't know if you know this name, but his name's Brian Mulrooney. And he says that he used to see you in Epsom when you were coaching Jimmy, and he said you were some talent. He said at one point you gave him an 80+ head start and you still thrashed him. And I don't know if you remember that, but he said you were a mean player.
No, but I obviously know the club. You know, I used to do coaching in Epsom, and you know, and Jimmy had moved to Epsom, and that was one of the reasons we got back together for that particular season. Like, I think I think I was outside having a cigarette break or whatever, and Jimmy was walking along the road, and somehow the ice was broken, and we got back together, and I started getting him back to his natural ways and natural flair, and wow, it just connected so much. He was the second highest money winner of that particular season. Well, he would have been, because I've told you the statistics of that particular season. I think it was only Ronnie that earned more money in that season. He went from 43 in the world, I think, into the top 5. That type of thing. So, but yeah, I remember playing in that club. Listen, I was a pretty nice snooker player. I made many 100 breaks and a couple of 147s. They used to have magazines back in the day, Snooker Scene, and sure. And they used to have I think I was 13th best. I was 5th or 6th best in London, and 13th best in England at one stage as an amateur. But it wasn't for the lack of bottle with me. So, anyways, I don't make excuses. I've got a little bit of a shaking back arm, which is a little bit of a focal dystonia thing. It just shakes. It doesn't mean to say I'm under pressure, but obviously if you've got a little bit of a disorder, when key moments come up, it could. Anyway, so I think that stopped me from doing better than I'd have loved to have been a professional snooker player. But, as a kid, I was pretty good at football, tennis, table tennis, anything to do with a ball. So I knew I had that hand-eye coordination, and my vision for the game of snooker. You could never be with somebody like Jimmy with his vision, his creativity, his flair. If you couldn't say anything to him if you didn't live it with him. When he used to play certain little shots that he felt was good, touch and feel shots or whatever, or just a stun release from a distance. He used to look at me for inspiration, and I could feel all the shots with him. So, I'm happy that I was gifted with that feelings, and that's how I teach, basically. I don't teach with any gimmicks. I don't teach with, I just try to blend in with the professionals that I've ever coached. They only need fine tuning. When I was working with Joe Johnson a few years back, he'd won the world championships, and then, well, the first thing he did, he had his cue that he won the world championships with. He had it made into a 2-piece. Anyway, so I've gone up to Bradford and I'm staying with Joe, and then we're at the practice table and things. He's hitting the ball, and I like to have a little shot with players' cues just to get a feel of it, whether it's alive or dead or whatever, and so on and so forth. But I'm having a few shots with this Joe's cue, and I had a nice Hunt & O'Byrne cue there, and really lovely cue, hit the ball beautiful. And I had a few shots with Joe's cue. I said, Joe, your cue's not hitting the ball properly. He said, what are you talking about? I won the world champ. Yeah, exactly. And then all of a sudden, he had a friend that he had some nice cues, and these friends sort of bought 6 or 7 cues, and he started to understand that where he'd had his 1-piece cue turned into a 2-piece cue, it had taken the life out of it. And he started to believe me. He picked a couple of these cues up and started practicing, and he was getting more action into the white ball with the same type of cue action. So that was the first thing I did for Joe. Got him to sort of get rid of the cue that he had that was dead, basically. And the second thing that I had a big battle with Joe, that, wonderful defensive player, Joe Johnson was. And what he'd ended up doing was trying not to lose rather than trying to win. Yeah. And I had to try to kind of get him to turn it around. And at one particular moment, I was playing him some frames type of thing, and you know, he was keeping score, and you know, he just lost control on the black, where it was a little bit, maybe a little quarter ball cutback on the black, maybe a bit thicker or whatever, and he started sort of like wanting to play safe. I said, "What are you doing, Joe?" He said, like, if I missed the black, he said, like, you know, you could get in and win type of thing. I said, Joe, you can't think about missing that. You know, it was, you know, it was in it. The game at snooker had gone aggressive now for Hendry, you know,
Yeah.
so, you know, he had to start sort of like going for the juggler like they do now, you know, that's why the game's much better than it was years ago, because, like, you know, these players can just make breaks from anywhere, especially Ronnie, by the way.
Yeah, it sounded like Joe got really negative.
Sure, he did, absolutely. Anyways, so we nearly come to blows. We nearly, you know, he's nearly sacked me, isn't it? You know, and I've, you know, kept. And then he started to understand. You know, I said, Joe, when you was a kid, I said, you was never. When you won the world championship, you was potting them off the lampshade. I said, what are you doing? Thinking not of, if, you know, just knock the black in and finish me off. Okay. And okay, and then he said, okay, I understand. So we made a pact that, you know, when he was playing his matches, a race to 5, best of 9, he said, for the first 2 frames, I'm going into the arena, shaking the person's hand. He said, I'm going to go for everything that I believe I can get. You know, so if he's got a kind of like a 6 out of 10 long pot or a 9 out of 10 defense, he's going for the pot. He's going, you know, wow. And it just freed him up. It gave him another 3 or 4 seasons of playing the snooker that he wanted to play, basically. You know,
it's quite funny that, Alan, because obviously you've unlocked something that's probably not his technique, but you've unlocked something in his head, his mental state.
Sure.
Just give him that confidence.
100%. You know, it was like just a magic moment for him to kind of like, once again, I just took the shackles off. You just took the shackles off, and like all of a sudden, you know, he spread his wings and he started having fun at the game again. And like I said, Joe, if you go 2-0 down, well, we'll fall back on your defensive play and try and nick a scrappy frame if you want to. But I said, but you got to go out there with the right attitude, and that is to try and win the match, not to defend it, to win it. And like, you know, so he turned that around, and you know, that was a good job done. I recently spoke to Joe, in actual fact. He still likes to play in the seniors, so on and so forth, and he was talking about something that he was saying that he was you know, looking at his sugar intake and stopping eating Mars bars and something like that. He said, like, I've done that for a couple of days. He said, I knocked in 6 centuries today. So, you know, yeah, sure. He's, you know, good luck to Joe. He's a lovely lad, and you know, hopefully he does well in his senior career.
Yeah, of course. Joe's the seniors Masters champion, I think. Current Masters champion in the seniors, so he's still got a game in there.
Sure, he still loves it. As long as you still love it, and like you can swing the cue, you got a squeak. You know, obviously the seniors now, they've let youngsters into it, compared to, you know, if you're 45 years old playing a 60-year-old, or Joe's sort of like 68, I think, or whatever. He's, you know, I think he's older than me. So, you know, it's a little bit unfair, I suppose, you know, to call a 45-year-old a senior playing a sort of like 68-year-old senior. But, you know, that's what they've done anyways. You know, I think Lee won it, didn't he? Sorry?
Yeah, Lee Walker.
Lee Walker, yeah, he beat Jimmy in the final, didn't he? Of the recent one, yes, that type of thing, you know. And, you know, Lee Walker's still a whippersnapper compared to Jimmy and Joe and Cliff Forbin and the likes, and whoever else, you know. But anyway,
yeah, of course, Lee was just off the tour as well. He just dropped off the tour, so he's still playing at a high level.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely, yeah.
And do you get to know these guys, Alan? Do you get to know these as friends as well? I mean, there must be an element of you've got a job to do and you're wishing the best for them, but you know, do you find yourself getting close to them as people as well? Jimmy's obviously someone you've been working with and without. How does that work out for you? Willie Thorne as well, another name of someone, another larger than life character, if you like.
You know, let me talk about Willie for a second, bless him. And like, you know, he was my mucker and friend and so on and so forth. And you know, so you know, once, you know, when I started helping Jimmy out, obviously, you know, my world opened up, didn't it? Because, you know, people was thinking, okay, he's done good for Jimmy, like, let's give him a go type of thing. And you know, so that's how my snooker career got off, in my coaching got off the ground, basically, for what I did for me. You know, it's kind of like, I got lucky, I suppose. Yeah, lucky. Yeah, I got lucky. Of course I did. Obviously, you know, Jimmy started listening to me. He started being a bit more consistent, a little bit more careful, and he started winning a lot of things and so on and so forth, and done really good. And so, you know, so I got involved with other professionals, you know, all the professionals you said, and, you know, and many more, by the way, you know what I mean? You know, start Robin Hull from Finland, and Stephen Lee, I've done a little bit for Stephen as well. Stuart, I coached Stuart for a year. Alfie, I'll come back to Willie, but, you know, you know, Alfie Burden contacted me a year and a bit ago. He was retired, but he came out of retirement through lockdown. He was a bit bored or something. He's contacted me because I used to coach Alfie when he was a bit younger, type of thing. And you know, so I know a lot about Alfie's game and what makes him tick and what so on and so forth. And you know, he asked me. He said, you know, he's going to go to Q school. He's picked his Q back up. Can I come down and have a look at him and see if I can sort of motivate him and put him together a little bit and give him a little bit more of an act to adhere to. And so that's what we did for Alfie. And you know, we went to Sheffield. He got beat in the first qualifying tournament. You know, there's 3 tournaments to get your card. And then he got beat in the first one. In the second one, he actually got his 2-year card, bless him. And you know, and that was a lovely feat to do as well, you know, for somebody, you know, a journeyman as such. Alfie, you know, you know, he's been on the circuit many years, and probably a little bit of an underperformer for one thing or another. But, you know, for him to get his card for 2 years, he didn't have a good season last season. This season he's not started great neither, I don't think. You know, I haven't been coaching Alfie this season again for whatever reason. But that was a nice thing, a recent achievement for myself and Alfie, for him to get a card for 2 years. Yeah, so going back to Willie, wow, I was in touch with Willie when he was diagnosed with leukemia, and he was in Spain, and I phoned him nearly every day, every other day, and there was never a day that he said, I feel better today, Al. And it was never a day when he said to me, I feel better. You know, it was always, you know, I don't know what's happening now, and the doctors come in, and, you know, my arm's gone numb, you know, wow, just, what I kept saying was, come on, mucker, you know, turn it around, fight. And wow, and obviously, you know, from that day he got diagnosed leukemia. I don't know, it was only sort of like 6 weeks after the diagnosis that all of a sudden you know, he got sepsis, is it? Where your organs, wow, and that was it. And Jill, his kind of like girlfriend at the time, phoned me, and, you know, you know, just unbelievable. You know, it can happen to anybody. Obviously, you know, something can happen at any given time. You never know. You know, he never smoked. You know, whatever. He was but snooker. Wow. You know, I could trying to help Willie was difficult because, you know, he was addicted to gambling. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody knows that. Everybody knows Willie was addicted to gambling. Well, when you're addicted to gambling, you know, there's lots of ups and downs. There's lots of good luck and bad luck, and mostly when you're addicted to gambling, it's more bad luck than anything. You know, you never remember your good luck. You always remember your bad luck. And like, you know, he could write a book of bad luck stories. So, you know, he took that type of attitude onto the snooker table, where, you know, his tolerance level of him kind of like missing a pot and sticking his opponent up, or his opponent missing a pot and then not sticking Willie up. Yeah. You know, I spoke with Neil Folds once. He said, you know, when I play Willie, he said, you know, if I fluke one, I never say old man's up and say sorry, because I know it'd hurt him even more. You know, exactly that. You know, it's just an edge. You know, Willie used to give his players an edge. You know, I tried to give him, you know, I tried to say, just stay, let your talent have a chance, Willie. But, you know, I don't know, you know, I could be sitting in a crowd watching him, and, you know, the first one, you know, the first little thing that he would do wrong, or something, a little bit of bad luck, you know, maybe a little shrug his shoulders. Second time, you know, he'd have a little twitch again, and third time, you know, the cue goes a little bit bouncy. Fourth time, starts looking around at me now as if to say, like, yeah, look, you see what's happening, like, yeah, you know, and so I don't know, 5 or 6 things where he missed a shot or his opponent didn't stick him up. I think about 6 or 7 of them, and he's finished.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, Willie won the Mercantile Credit Classic, and but I think was that the only tournament he won. But I suppose you could class Willie as a bit of an underachiever given his talent.
Wow! Listen, I could be. He made 8 147s against me. You know, when I was playing him, not you know, over a period type of thing. But you know, with Willie, you know, he could pop sort of like 4 red blacks, and all of a sudden I'll make a 147 here, Al. Do you know what I mean? And like, you know, his cue ball was, like he used to say, on a piece of string. It was on a piece of string. I think it, you know, and they were mostly performed in his club in the Willie Thorne Snooker Centre in Leicester, on his match table. They were, so, you know, he was familiar with that table. He was familiar with the surroundings and so on and so forth. And where his cue ball control was on a piece of string on his table in his club. Now, when you go to a competition table, it might just run a little bit differently. The surroundings a little bit differently, and you know, and now all of a sudden his cue ball's not quite on a piece of string. You know, and I don't know. He never coped with that very much. You know, where, you know, you can imagine if your cue ball's just there and you ain't got too much to do each time, but then all of a sudden you go to another table and you lose the white ball, and then all of a sudden, but you know, like I used to explain, I said, like, if you got a shot, Will, get on with it. You know, don't have a scream up because your cue ball should have been there, and you know, you ain't got a 10 out of 10 shot. You've still got an 8 out of 10 shot.
Yeah.
Your shoulders. Do you know what I mean? And okay, but anyways, at the end of the day, I was dealing with somebody that was completely paranoid of good luck and bad luck. That's what I was dealing with, and it was an hard thing. But that, you know, we could be at Preston in the Guildhall in the UK, and like I've had a team talk with him, prepared him for, you know, something might not go in your favour. Your opponent, just hang in there, Will. He said, okay, I got it. You know, just before, welcome on stage, Willie, and the phone's gone, and he's, I'll have 500 quid each way on that one.
Yeah.
Just before, you know what I mean, and like, wow, but that's me old mucker Willie. You know, lovely man, just gambling done him in a little bit, and well, a lot basically, and
yeah, shame.
But beautiful man, would, you know, do anything for anybody. Yeah, you know, he's missed. Don't worry about that. You know, I don't think anybody disliked him in the snooker world. You know, he used to sort of like walk into the venues like fucking. He used to walk into the venues like King Kong type of thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. What was it he said? Oh, I think he was walked in and he said, like, right, who's the second best player in here?
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
I remember Henry telling that story.
something like that. Yeah. Well, I think I was with him then, so you know that was true. But lovely, lovely man, and you know, unfortunately, the addiction to gambling and really got to him big time. You know, obviously he tried to top himself a couple of times, which was a cry for help or attention.
Yeah.
But yeah, me old mucker Willie, I love him to death. Bless him, rest in peace.
Yeah, which we'd obviously share that, wouldn't we? I mean, and it's nice, really, Alan, just to get that kind of insight into the man, really. And it's such a shame to hear some of what he obviously went through and what got hold of him. One of the people who follows what we're doing, Aston Sancho, one of the Spanish listeners, she was wondering who was, now this might get lost in translation, but she asked about the players that you've worked with and who was the hardest in training. Now I'm taking it to mean almost who was the toughest to train. I don't know if that was the intention, but I'm going to ask that question. Was there one of the players who stands out as the toughest to train?
The toughest to kind of teach or whatever?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Well, that's the one I'm going to ask you, I think. Yeah.
And that's a great question, isn't it? That's a great question, really.
Yeah. It's a ripper.
You know, but you know, I'm just recalling now, and you know, the way I teach and the way I try to blend in and try to not to be scientific and just, you know, I like to think, you know, that I'm a bit of a flair coach, and I'm more of a teacher than a coach. I'm a teacher because I've got a lot of knowledge. You know, there's lots of coaches out there that do a couple of exams or whatever they do, and they get a certificate and they become a coach. Okay, you know, anybody can wake up in the morning and say, well, I'm going to be a coach. You get a certificate. Even if you don't get a certificate, you can still be a coach. But it takes a lot of time and a lot of knowledge to be a teacher. And, you know, that's what I think I am. I'm more of a teacher than a coach. So if anybody's listening and they want a basic coach, I'm not a basic coach. I'm a flair coach, but I'm more of a teacher. So if you want a teacher, you can contact me.
Well, we get a lot of coaches that aren't necessarily good at snooker, Alan, and obviously you've got a background in the game. You know what the shots require and how the technical side it is. So I suppose that's a better way to coach, you know, when you played the game yourself.
Sure, and you know, wow, you know how long we got to start talking about how many different ways you can play the game. You know, you know, starting from the ground upwards. You know, you can stand open, you can stand square, you can stand. You know, so the stance is just basically to support your body. Okay, so we understand that. You know, if you're right-handed, we know that your right leg and right foot has got to be somewhere on the line of the shot, whether it's slightly outside, slightly inside, then you have to shift your balance. So, you know, that's not just a give me that, you know, so there's a little bit of flexibility there, you know, and how much twist in your hips is vital to, like, you know, if you ain't got the right twist in your hips to set that line, you know, the cue on line, you know, that could be slightly out, you know, and you know, just a subtle little fix in somebody's twist in their hips just sets that cue even more in line than they thought.
Yeah.
That stops them hitting a cross type of thing. You know, moving up type of thing. Now we're saying, you know, how many different grips, you know, we got you know, a grip that a wrist, a straight wrist, a wrist that's got a slight bend in it, a wrist that, you know, has got a lot of like an ape wrist to it, you know, where it bends inwards. So, you know, so there's lots of different grips. Bridge hands, lots of different types of bridge hands. Do you have a straight bridge arm? Do you have a bent bridge arm? That can be flexible as well. Where do we sight? Down the left ear hole, right side of your chin, center of your chin, left, right, left side. You know, where is that? Where is that? So, you know, you got to find a signature way of you playing. You know, there's no, you know, I can go into even more depth, you know, the plane of attack. You've got Ronnie sets his plane fairly steep. You've got Kieran Wilson sets his plane pretty parallel. You've got John Higgins that's in between them two. So there's 3 planes of attacks. Ronnie obviously sets himself a little bit steep because his upper arm comes down into the shot, but he's learned how to deliver his upper arm straight through the ball, but he has to set himself a little bit steep. Otherwise, when his arm drops down, obviously the cue would hit the table too much. So, you know, he has to set like that. Kieran Wilson sets level plane. When he takes the cue back, he takes it slightly upwards naturally, which gives him the compression back into the ball, and he follows through. You know, but, you know, the comparison golf as well, you know, you know, when the golfer hits the golf ball, he has to put compression into the back of the ball. You know, a bad golfer, when they try to scoop it or hit the ground first, you know, that's timing. You know, the timing in snooker or in cue sport, if you arrive to the cue ball too early, it's a miscue. If you arrive to the ball a bit late, it's a scoop, and both are no good to anybody. So, you know, timing is a little bit of understood, the rhythm and tempo, different rhythm and tempos people got. So, wow, there's so many different ways to play, and you just got to find the signature way of you playing.
And I suppose your coaching, Alan, will be personal to that player as well. Obviously, if you look at Judd Trump, he's not got the best of techniques, but you wouldn't touch that. You wouldn't try and change that, would you?
You blend in with it a little bit, and you know. But I know there's a lot of coaches out there. They play the game and they teach them the way they play. Okay, you know, there is a kind of like, you know. A so-called text, you know, what is John Higgins a textbook way of playing? You know, I don't know. Most people would say John Higgins is fairly textbook, but I don't know what textbook means because there's 2 different ways. You know, if you try to Ronnie O'Sullivan without the understanding, you would get lost because it's really complex how Ronnie plays, but he makes it look so simple, doesn't he?
Yeah.
You know, and let's go to the last extreme. I mean, if any coach ever got involved with Judd Trump and said to Judd Trump, you know, you're aiming across the ball, Judd, and like tried to correct that, well, he'd just sack you immediately, wouldn't he? So let's just add up what Judd goes through and what normal people go through. So Judd is aiming across the ball, a tip to the right. He takes the cue back and then he moves slightly to hit the middle of the ball. So when Judd misses a shot, he aims across the ball and misses a shot when he don't get straight.
Yeah.
When we play, we're aiming straight, and when we miss, we hit slightly across the ball. So it's the complete opposite.
Yeah.
So you tell me there's one way to play snooker.
Exactly.
You can't tell me there's one way to play snooker. There's no, you know, there's so many funky ways to play. But you have to find your way, what your makeup is. You know, some people, you know, start messing about trying to get their elbow in line with the shot. Well, Ronnie's elbow's not in line with the shot. Ronnie's elbow's facing his back. Then you've got Graham Dott, his elbow's facing away from his back. And then you've got sort of like Neil Robertson, his elbow's straight in line with the shot. So, you know, I mean, once again, you know, the textbook says follow through. They never say how much to follow through, though, do they? Okay, you know what I mean? Because, like, you know, you wouldn't put too much follow through on a little touch backspin, quarter ball touch back, you know, quarter ball cut in the black, going down your butt, hitting the bottom of the ball with a little touch, trying to hold it. You wouldn't be following through too much on that. But the textbook says through, you know, and then people start following through and their back arm goes walk is, and then they start pushing the ball instead of striking the ball. Wow, you know, so, you know, you have to be really, really flexible to be a teacher.
Mhm.
If you, you know, a basic coach is a basic coach, but, you know, to be a little bit more advanced, you just got to be more flexible and more understanding and take on board the personality, the character you're dealing with, how he fits around the queue, his size, his height, whatever. And, you know, you just have to try and find the right way for that particular person.
Yeah.
You do a lot of your coaching at different parts of the world, Alan. I mean, are you seeing a growth in interest in certain countries, or has that always been the case?
Sure. Well, you know, just talking about flexibility, you know, I've actually coached 2 world pool champions as well. The best pool player from Finland, Mika Immonen, and I've done a little bit of coaching for Darryl Peach in England. So, you know, and both were ex-world champions. So, you know, they both let me into their games to try to, you know, help them out. I've done quite a few hours with Mika a few years back, and once again, you know, Mika's a little bit like Jimmy, as a, you know, a Jimmy snooker player, Mika pool player. Both got a lot of flair, a lot of vision, a lot of shots, so on and so forth. But both can be a little bit careless at given time. So, you know, I had to explain that to Mika, and I strengthened his routine. I think you got 2 routines. I've explained. I know that one of the Zoom calls you had recently was from Vilas from Lithuania. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Sure. I was talking to Vilas just before this call, and you know, he likes to talk to me, and he's learned a lot from me to put into his own coaching type of thing, you know, and I've given him a few little drills, and he likes to talk to me about his game and so on and so forth. And well, I've lost the track of why I've gone to Vilas, by the way. I just lost the.
We're talking about Mika.
Yeah. Well, what I did for Mika was I know, and I was just explaining to Vilas earlier that you've got 2 pre-shot routines. You've got one routine that you do for your open play and just getting on with it and not too much thinking, you know, obviously the visualization. You know, I do an ABCD concept when I'm teaching. A is the visualization and creativity details of an artist. B is the set of a marksman. C is the rhythm and tempo of a ballerina. Solid as a rock. So the ABCD. And I go through them 4 different departments and try to get that into a little act for people with a nice, so you become more artistic, less thinking, and so on and so forth. So it's, you know, that, and that's what I try to do. And I was explaining to Vilas today, you know, he's got a couple of nice little competitions coming up, and I said, you know, you've got to have 2 routines. You've got to have a routine when you're flowing, but you've got to have a routine for key moments. You can't use your key moment routine for your get on with it game. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So there's 2 types of routines. Obviously, one where you're kind of like seeing the shot pretty quickly, you're setting nice and quickly, you're pulling the trigger within the span you normally do, whether it's 1 waggle, 2 waggles, 3 waggles. I don't think you want more than 4 anyways. You know, more than 4, you start overthinking and giving yourself too much time to be negative. So whatever turns you on in that area type of thing. Okay, so but then all of a sudden, like, you get a key shot where all of a sudden, you know, you might have a little down your butt, quarter ball cut in the middle, a little touch and feel shot to, you know, keep the break going. It can be difficult, but you've got to go through a little bit more of a stronger routine for that shot. Because it deserves a little bit more care attention. You know, you have to kind of maybe go and check the angle a little bit, and, like, you know, select the right club, as I call it. You know, I mean, you might have to go down to your 3 grip. You know, so the little bit less cue helps the touch and feel of that shot, and deal with that, and hopefully get that with a stronger routine, and then move on back to your normal routine. So there's 2 types of routines, if you understand. You know, obviously a lot of people talk about routine, but you know, there's different types of routines, and you have to find that stronger one for the key moment shots. But going back to Mika, I strengthened his routine, and you know, really enjoyed it. Not easy to get a player to take care, but he maintained his flair, you know. So that's what I had to try to do for Mika, you know, calm him down a bit so he makes less unforced errors by going too quick, getting ahead of himself. Anyways, he took, okay, so he was putting the chalk on the table like pool players do. So the first thing I told him that, you know, your chalk is your friend. You've got to have your friend with you. And so you keep it in a pouch, keep it in your pocket, wherever, but you don't put it on the table, because as soon as you put it on the table, you're losing your friend. And like, you're not going to use it as a little bit of a routine to separate one shot to the other. So that's the reason you got it in your hand. Not that, you know, there's many good pool players that put it on the table, by the way, but I don't teach that. So anyway, so he got that routine. He went back to America. He played in a big tournament that particular a couple of 3 months afterwards, and I think it's called the Turning Stone Classic in a big hotel in Las Vegas, and like a big tournament, all the top names. And he actually went on to win that tournament. And throughout the tournament, I was talking to him and motivating him, inspiring him, and keeping him concentrated, and give me a lovely feedback. You know, he said, like, you know, like to say thank you to Alan Bell, you know, the best in the business, or whatever he said to me, but I think he used that the words. It's on Facebook somewhere, so, you know, I'm not telling fibs, lies. And the commentators were kind of like talking about how different he was approaching the game and approaching the shots, and you know, how much care and attention and chilled, but him still playing his shots. So how I explain that is that I help Jimmy to live the game more, and I help Mika to live the game. And if you can live the game, live the shots, you're on your way forwards, because you're embracing the adrenaline, you're embracing the little bits of pressure that everybody gets, you know, the excitement, whatever you want to call it. But if you can live it, you've got a chance. And that's what I did. Got Mika to live the game a little bit more, and yeah, that was a nice period when Mika done that.
And do you find, I mean, you know, I'm not really a player. Lee is a player, so he can talk with a bit of authority on this. But, you know, generally when people contact you, Alan, do they tend to contact you and say, this is what I want to improve? Or is it more general sometimes where you go and have a look, observe someone and go, okay, there's a few things here we can work on?
That's a great question again. And like, so if somebody contacts me, you know, ask them a little bit of a background, ask them sort of like, you know, what they do for a living, where they want to go with their game, something. Okay, ask them a few questions, get a little bit of an understanding of how much practice they can do. You know, I'll get a little bit of an idea quite quickly. You know, I think my man management's pretty good. I don't know why, you know, maybe it's a gift, you know, of sussing somebody's personality and character out. That's an important part of, you know, my coaching as well. How much practice, how much free time somebody's got. So obviously, you know, if somebody's got a lot of free time and a lot of practice and they want to become a professional, obviously, you know, I go into a little bit, you know, I kind of make them a little bit stronger by, you know, making them practice a little bit better routines maybe, or something like that. Or, you know, because if you're dealing with somebody that hasn't got a lot of time to make a few changes that they need, you've got to be very careful. You've got to be really careful, because obviously, you know, them type of players, you know, maybe the hobby players, you know, you have to be very delicate with that type of player as well. You know, just fit in something very subtle that doesn't seem like too much of a challenge to change. Maybe, you know, I just recently come back from Denmark, and I coached 15 players out there, 2 hours each. I've done 30 hours out there in a little 4 or 5 day period. beautiful country. I hadn't been there before. Been to many other countries: Finland, Norway, Poland, lots of other countries. I was national coach to Holland snooker team. As national coach to Bahrain. There's a great story there. You know, being national coach to the Bahrain snooker team as well. You know, I won't go into that story for a second, but it was a great story. You know, of conditions. You know, teaching them to play on a particular conditions. Everybody was feeling good in the Bahrain team, and then we flew from Bahrain to Dubai, and then all of a sudden we've turned up and we're playing on star tables with silky cloths, brand new balls. Wow, it's just like, you know, my lads couldn't pot a ball. You know, they was putting the best effort, best cue action on it, and the ball weren't going in the pocket. And now there's nothing more killing than that, is there? You know.
Yeah, I've been in that position, Alan, with the star tables and tournaments. You know, the slide completely different.
Sure, you understand, you know, everybody was buzzing, you know, going to Dubai, making their sort of like personal best breaks and so on and so forth. Yeah. Everybody buzzing, motivated, nice and chilled. All of a sudden, we're playing on star tables with brand new cloths, brand new balls, and like, well, everybody, it was like a fish out of water. It was, you know, so that was, you know, but yeah, going back to, you know, my teaching, basically. The way I teach, I actually take over. You know, that ABCD concept. You know, I have a little number sequence. I have a little letter sequence. You know, the number 1 grip is at the back, and then some shots we have to shift down to 2, 3 grip, give it, so on and so forth. There's a little number sequence I do on the cue ball. So, you know, I give them just numbers basically. You know, and so they're standing me on a shot. And I'm asking them. Obviously, there's details. The details of any cue sport is when we have to play with little bits aside. American pool, obviously, because of the bigger ball, you can apply much more side spin on that bigger ball, and you really do need to apply side spin as well for shape. They call it cue ball control. I also teach English pool. Just been last 3 or 4 years been teaching English balls, getting some lovely results at that as well. And once again, that's a difficult game. You know, that little ball hitting the big ball. You know, the concept. You know, the tangent line. You know, to top spin it. It's like you really got to get through the white ball to top spin it, because it's a little ball hitting a big ball. But then the flip side to it is when you're back spinning the ball, it just comes off the big ball and it backspins forever. So the touch and feel in that game, you know, and nobody's going to tell me that English pool is easy. Nobody's going to tell me that American, you know, I hear Ronnie O'Sullivan, you know, comparing American pool to snooker, like snooker's like playing at Augusta, and American pools like playing in a crazy golf. But that's tongue in cheek, because he knows deep in his heart that American pool is a very difficult game. You know, it's not about potting balls. You know, how good your break is, how good your banks are, how jumping, kicking. There's lots of to that game. You know, cue ball control, you've only got to be slightly out. You can be slightly out cue ball control at snooker, but because of the big table, you can be more creative, and you know, you haven't got to be pinpoint perfect. You know, and it's the same as that English pool, difficult game. So, you know, the most difficult game, make no mistake, is snooker, because it's the most technically demanding game, because the aerodynamics over a 12-foot table, you know, you hit one slightly offline and you could miss by 7 balls type of thing. You know, you miss it one in an English pool table, you might miss it sort of like 1 ball. So technically, snooker is more demanding than American pool, but both of them games are still difficult, and don't let anybody tell you different, because they got bigger pockets at American pool. The game's still difficult. You know, at the highest level, if you think you're good at potting balls and cue ball control, and you play a top player a race to 15, you're getting beat 15-2. You won't even get a sniff.
Well, we've seen that with Judd Trump playing in the US Open. Got beat by Jason Shaw.
And Gary Wilson and another lad. had a go. Yeah, sure, you know, they held their hands up, but, you know, and even they're missing sort of like kind of shots they would never miss on the snooker table, on a pool table, you know. So
Yeah.
it's nothing to do with potting balls. It's nothing to do with potting balls. You know, the game of American pool is nothing to do with potting balls. You know, that's the easy part. The difficult part, breaking the balls and kicking. And what about jumping? You know, I mean, absolutely, it's an art.
Yeah.
Over the ball. You know, I lived in Thailand for 5 to 6 years and coaching out there, and I learned to play pool out there to quite a nice standard. But I was never a connoisseur of pool. You know, to be a connoisseur of pool, you know, you gotta indulge in all the aspects. You know, and you know, okay, I could jump over a ball and be happy if I potted it. But you know, these top lads, you know, they're not just jumping over. They can jump over a ball and backspin the white ball. They can jump over a ball and topspin. You know, absolutely. They practice it. You know, just being good at that is unbelievable. You know, but that's all dedication. Anyways, yeah. So when I do my teaching, I kind of, you know, I just become the artist, because, you know, snooker, pool, or any cue sport is artistic. It's not a science. There's no science involved. You know, you've either been gifted with certain senses more than somebody else. You know, if you haven't been gifted with hand-eye coordination, you can't play. That's for sure. Yeah, you know, 100%. You know, it's like throwing a ball at somebody. You know, if somebody threw a ball at me as a kid, I'd just snatch it out of the sky. You know, just catch it.
Yeah.
And suddenly I could throw a ball to my friend Gary, who didn't. You know, he'd be all fingers and thumbs, can't catch it. You know, his eyes wouldn't be connected with his hands. You know, it's silly one concept, but unless you've got hand-eye coordination, that's one gift. You know. So that's why you've got to play a lot with your senses. How you fit around a cue type of thing. You know, somebody fits around a cue and you just don't fit around the cue properly. I don't know, you know, it's just somebody in somebody's makeup, whatever. But you gotta have some natural talent. I don't know. I don't like using the word natural, really. I think a human's only natural at breathing. I think anything else we learn, everything else we do, we learn, don't we? So, but you have definitely been given some senses for a given sport. Well, it makes sense as well, doesn't it? You know, people can jump higher, run faster, throw longer. So, you know, something inside them is different. So everybody's different, and like, you know, you've got to have something that gives you a chance to be a cueist. You've got to have something.
And Alan, you don't call yourself a psychologist. You don't brand yourself as that, but you have touched upon the fact that there is the mental side to the game, and you're aware of that when you're working with players.
And listen, and I ain't a psychologist. I ain't a sports psychologist. And like in my own little world, Alan Bell's little London lad's world, you know, somehow, you know, I can just come across and put in place some nice little things that help people cope with the most important thing, and that is, you know, the pressure of the bottle. You know, if you haven't, you know, and once again, I talk about gifts. You know, some people have been gifted to be able to cope with pressure. That's other people. You know, and I think it's one thing that a coach or a teacher, you know, it's very difficult. You know, if, you know, there's players out there that can make 100 breaks. You know, how many players? I don't know if you know any. You know, I know loads of 100 break players that have never made it for one thing or the other. But the one thing is obviously they couldn't perform under pressure. If you can't perform under pressure, you know, that's the ultimate thing that sorts the men from the boys. from the greats to the goods, to the what, you know, the best from the rest. Being able to see that key shot, go through a routine, live it, love it, and do it. And some people just can't do that. Some people just setting up to that shot with all sorts of funny things going on in their mind, and they pull the trigger and it's never going in. It doesn't go in.
Mm-hmm.
Not an easy one to help somebody overcome. But I just recently been working with an English pool player, a friend of mine as well. He's the best. I think he's the best pool player in Portsmouth, where I live. And I watched him play a while ago, and it was like he was playing, and it looked like he was stressed. It looked like everything was just trying to pot the ball, trying to win. You know, if you have to try to pot the ball, if you have to try to win, you're not doing something good, are you? You know, you shouldn't be playing. You know, it should be put. And I had a word with him, and from that moment, and you know how we went about it, we spoke about things to put things in place, so he never ever turns up to a tournament feeling like he's got to try to do anything. And like, you know, and how we spoke about that, you know, I kind of explained it to him. I said, like, you know, when I do my lessons with you, Neil, his name is, so when I do my lessons with you, you know, we're playing with freedom, we're breathing, we're relaxed, we're doing everything nice, and then all of a sudden, like, you go to a tournament, and it's like you're standing at the bottom of Mount Everest. And somebody's saying, like, well, okay, then, you know, you got to climb that. Like, it's not that, is it? I said, you're going to a tournament, you've got a table, you've got a balls, you've got your practice, and so it's attitude, isn't it? You know, it's about somebody's attitude, how they view a particular situation. You know, obviously Neil was going to a tournament and viewing this tournament as some type of big ordeal, and over exaggerating what he had to do to try to do well in it, if not win the tournament. So we turned that around for Neil, and you know, the way we turned that around is just basically getting his attitude right, and you know, seeing it for what it is. That, you know, it's a game that you practiced, it's a table, it's a set of balls, and there's a jigsaw puzzle to solve. And you know, and from that moment, he recently won a tournament a couple of weeks ago. Nice tournament, probably the biggest tournament in Hampshire. He won that particular tournament. It was nice to see him playing with freedom. That's exactly, you know, that's the freedom. You know, you play with freedom. You know, how he done that, you know, we got him to sort of like relax a little bit more. You know, even when he weren't at the table, he was getting his fucking chalk out and chalking his cue. I said, stop doing that. I said, you're not even at the table and you're chalking your cue, you're digi. Just sit down and relax. You know, anything, you know, everything, you know, I just chilled him out, basically. And that's what I try to do with all my players, to, you know, help them cope with the ultimate thing you have to cope with. And that's potting that ball at that key moment when there's a little bit of pressure on it.
And now, how was Jimmy on that one then? You worked with Jimmy a lot and at different stages, and obviously he had that run where, you know, most of us would call him the best player not to win the world champs, and he kept coming up against Hendry in the finals, etc. But I mean, how was he from that point of view in terms of, you know, if you don't know him, he come across as pretty casual, very relaxed, very natural. Is that how you found him as well, or was there work to do on that side?
No, Jimmy had great bottle, gift. He was gifted with bottle. Make no mistake, gifted with bottle. You know, Jimmy had a very unique way of playing again. You know, obviously aiming at the bottom of the ball, taking his cue back, dropping his cue back to it. Some part of the white ball that he knows how to hit. You know, it's a homemade way of playing. You know, I said to him, why are you aiming at the bottom of the ball? you know, in relation to the cue ball zeros at the bottom type of thing. Why are you aiming at zero? So he said, you know, he can see the middle of the white ball back down there. So, you know, there's something, you know, that his way of playing that he learned as a kid, you know, aiming at the bottom of the ball, dropping his cue back and sort of like hitting some part of the white ball that he wasn't actually aiming at first, which is completely against textbook, by the way, isn't it? You know, yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, his cue ball was never the best. His cue ball control was never the best. But, you know, like I said, you know, his recovery shots were like people's routine shots. Amazing. You know, I remember him playing in the semi-finals in Birmingham in the meter 200 grand or something. You know, there's loads of different tournaments. He played Tony Gadoga in the semi-finals, and he lost his cue ball and then shaped up to this yellow, you know, had a sort of like half ball yellow that he smacked in and coming off the bolt cushion, side cushion, back round for the reds type of thing, you know, but, you know, he's just knocked it in it like it was over the hole. So, Jimmy had great ball, mate. Jimmy had great ball. He never won, he's lost 6 times in the World Championships. I was with him with 4 of them, and you know, the different reasons for why he didn't win any of them. You know, different reasons. You know, he'd never got the first and last one. I wasn't with him, but the ones in between, I was with him. But you know, I'm not going to go into details. You know, there was reasons, and you know, it weren't meant to be. But I don't think it was down to bowl. Maybe the last one where he had that black. Remember the black he missed against Hendry?
Yeah, and Hendry cleared them in 17-all. That was it 90, 95, 90? I don't know.
He's obviously got ahead of himself there a little bit and put a little bit of a quick run in, probably, where he hasn't caressed the white ball good enough. So he hasn't caressed the white ball to the target that he knows. He knows that shot inside out. He's, you know, you put it back again, he's never going to miss it. But, you know, that moment in time, he's put a shade of a quick one in, hasn't caressed the white ball, put a little bit of unintentional on it or something side on it, and it hasn't gone in. And, you know, but
yeah, it's easily done.
But, you know, he's won loads of ranking tournaments and some good bowl, Jimmy. You know, and, you know, like I said, you know, I think it's a gift. You know, some people have got bottle a little bit more gifted than other people. Do you agree with that? Do you think that, Lee?
Yeah, well, personally, when it comes to bottle, I think there's only so much you can do with teaching technique. I think you can sort of guard against it so much by having a great technique, but I think inherently it's inbuilt. I think you don't know you've twitched until you've twitched.
Yes.
So I think a lot of it's inbuilt, but you can guard against the sort of twitch by having a great technique.
Yeah, good verbal, Lee. That's exactly it. That's it. Absolutely, exactly how I see it. And, you know, you're gifted with a certain amount of it. You can learn a bit how to control it a bit more, and you go from there and see what happens. Yeah. Obviously, yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because we've had with Alan, we've had Martin O'Donnell and Lee Walker on, who were both criticised for slow play. And I think the common thing that came up in those chats was that away from the main tournaments, they're a bit quicker. And there's an element of the confidence being the thing that slows them down. And when they're overthinking, they're worrying about stuff. And then they're slower when they get to the big stuff. But actually, that's not how they want to play. But I think they both said about confidence, Lee, didn't they?
Yeah, absolutely. When the bigger the moment, the more they slowed down. Whereas when they're in the balls and there's nothing to think about, they're fluent, they're quite quick. But the bigger the moment, they slow down a bit because they want to be more careful.
Sure. And, you know, overcaring's a killer, undercaring. Yeah. Obviously, you know, so you got to find the balance. You know, I like that word, don't you, Lee? You know, I like finding the balance. You know, if somebody's a thinker, I get them to do it a bit more. If somebody's a doer, I get them to think a bit more. So try and find a balance in everybody's game. You know, a balance in how they stand, a balance how they set their cue, a balance in their rhythm and tempo, a balance in everything. If you find the right balance for you, you've got a great chance. I've watched Lee play, and some people have to do what they have to do to pot the balls. Going back, how slow was Terry Griffiths in his day, and Cliff Bourbon, and they were grinders, and and if you try to get them to go a bit faster, it ain't going to happen. They're going to get ahead of themselves. So, some people can, not everybody's Ronnie, are they? Bloody hell, even Judge, they just see a picture and get in and paint it, and some people see the picture, but they just need that little bit more care and attention.
And of course, that works the other way, Alan, because we've got Tony Drago, who's the other way, and you couldn't slow Tony down because it would ruin his game.
That absolutely, and that was in his makeup. That was in his biorhythms. He set to the shot, and it was kind of like a big. A sharp jab, if you want me to describe his cue action. It was, just a quick poke into the back of the ball. And that's the way he wanted to play. And, obviously, I call Tony the eighth wonder of the world, by the way. I call, don't worry about whirlwind. He made Jimmy look like a tortoise.
Mm-hmm.
The way he played, how fast he played, and how well he played, and how well he done for how fast he went, because snooker weren't really meant to be played that fast, but he was the fastest. He is the fastest player that's ever been, and amazing to watch him. Eighth wonder of the world. That's why I see. Set his cue parallel, and just if he wanted to get backspin, he'd set it sort of like just below centre and then jab it downwards and move on. He's no finesse whatsoever, but unbelievable. Not quite as unbelievable as Higgins, by the way, Alex Higgins, but Alex Higgins was unbelievable in his own world as well. How he kind of moved after he hit the ball, and probably moved even before he hit the ball, but somehow he hit that ball. I was there that time he made that unbelievable break against Jimmy. And I said to Alex afterwards, I said, that break was unbelievable. He said, "Thank you, babe." That's what I was there. And every one of them shots were a pint of blood. And some of the shots he played were they were more than genius, weren't they? It was more than genius. It was outrageous. So nice stories.
Who do you like the look of, Alan, that's on the scene now? Maybe not a world champion, maybe someone coming through. Have you got your eyes on anyone that you like what you see from them and you're excited about?
Well, I was watching that Chinese lad in the Champions League the other day. What's his name?
Bing Tong.
How good's he?
He's amazing.
Now, talk about routine. He's kind of like, he was putting his chalk on the table, wasn't he? Did you watch that? He was actually putting his, doing what a pool player does, just strolling around the table. He weren't sort of like standing back and taking a step into the picture. He was just a stroll in the park. He was just like crazy and like, just making breaks and potting balls and weren't making no rips and playing like that. Obviously, I don't think that's going to stand up to winning consistently. He's obviously got a little bit like Ronnie when he started out. He played like that, but obviously Ronnie's had to go through the mill back and all of a sudden, understand that there's more aspects to the game than just pointing the cue in it in the ball and pointing the cue in it in the ball, obviously. But wow, he's as talented as anybody I've ever seen him. So the Chinese lads are really hard-working, talented lads, and I think that combination, like I said, I think at the beginning of the interview, is deadly, isn't it?
Mhm.
Talent and hard working. Wow. Wow. I suppose I've got to put the last thing. It looks like most of them have got a bit of bottle as well. You know.
Yeah, I know that a lot of the Chinese guys play at the academies, things and Victorias,
Just
and
it.
they're all playing each other all the time, and other pros are coming in,
Yeah.
and that's all they're doing all day is playing snooker.
I was up there recently with Villas and like, you know, just watching them and you know, every day they just go, it's just what they do. You know,
Mhm.
they go in there, knock 4 hours in, go to the gym, have a bit of eat, and then knock another 4 hours in. And, you know, they're just playing with freedom, you know, and you know, their home, you know, their off table life's being handled. There's no pressures. You know, so they're playing with a lot of freedom and a lot of security. You know, there's a lot of snooker players out there that work hard. They've got a family. They've got to feed their family, and it's not easy sometimes. You know, they don't earn enough money sometimes, and you know, that's a massive pressure, isn't it? When you got to play for money rather than you know, winning a tournament. You know, you're playing just to nick a few quid. Wow, that's you know, where there's not the abundance of money like tennis or golf, you know, many other sports. You know, it's ridiculous, especially golf now with that live tournament. Wow,
Yeah.
how much money they've poured into that, and the kind of like, you know, has-beens of, well, there's a couple of not has-beens that have gone over to there, and you know, they, you know, just get millions and millions of pounds. It's scary. I wish Saudi had come into snooker and give snooker that money. Wow, you know. But anyways, there's a lot of snooker players, probably, you know, outside the 32, that have got a family and, you know, home to keep, and you know, scratching a bit. So, you know, when they're playing snooker, there's added pressure, which the last thing you need is added pressure. You know, the pressure of just potting balls and trying to compete, and wow, let alone, you know, if I don't win, you're right, I've got to go and borrow a few quid to get to eat. So, yeah. So,
Yeah, Alan, I mean, it's been fascinating to get so many insights into both how you work, but also about some of the people you've worked with. Because I think one of the beauties of what we enjoy doing on here as fans really is just to almost pull the curtain back and get a feel for what goes on and some of the people involved. And how, just before we round up, I mean, how anybody who would like to work with you to work with them and help them, how would they be able to contact you? What's the best kind of ways?
I'm a messenger. You just, you know, just friend request Alan Bell, and let me deal with it. You know, once somebody friend requests me and they want me to help them, wow, you know, it's just, you know, there's a lot of people say, wow, I wish I knew you 5 years ago, which I knew you 10. Everybody says that. You know, I don't know whether there's a lot of ego gets in the way of people or whatever, or they've had bad experience of being coached before, where, you know, the overthinking comes into it, and they've gone, wow, just anybody that friend requests me and wants to be a little bit better at what they do, whether it's a hobby, whether it's professional, obviously, you know, there will be no regrets on contacting me. That's for sure. I believe.
Yeah, well, you've got the experience and the CV to prove it, haven't you? So, just, well, I suppose for me then, it's just a big thank you, really, Alan. You've been really generous with your time. It's been a lot of fun talking and listening to you, and you know, and I'm sure, you know, maybe one day we'll talk again. And I know Lee as a player, you'll have enjoyed that as well.
Yeah, as a player, you know, it's fascinating. Not just the technical side, but the mental side of the game. So Alan, sorry, Alan.
What's your highest break?
I've had a 147, just the one.
Wow, well done, mate. You can't fluke that one, can you?
Yeah, I did. I've also bottled about 10 1-4-7 chances, so I could have done me in my corner that day. But it's been fascinating, Alan, and I really enjoyed the chat. And thanks so much for your time. It's been great.
Absolutely, and like you're a nice couple of lads, and it's been a pleasure. You know, me rambling on about things in my life, and you know, I'm still going.